If you and I truly believed this, that the very same Spirit that was Paul's mouth and wisdom is the very Spirit that has set up residency in your heart, if we really believed that for all it was worth, how much more confident and bold would we be in our witness? I'm going to embrace the awkward pause to let it sink in. How much more bold would we be? Let me ask you another question. How often are you and how often am I silent because at the root we disbelieve the Father's Spirit will give to us what we need to say in that moment of bearing witness? How many of us keep our mouths closed because we're living in practical denial that God has given us a mouth and wisdom? Am I the only one that has to raise a guilty hand? Having seen the Father's care for Paul through the loving arm of his Spirit, let's now conclude by looking at the Father's care for Paul through the loving arm of his Son. Verse 11. The following night, the Lord stood by him and said, consider for a moment how God appears to Paul at key junctures of his life. Acts 16:9, they're at Troas, and they don't know where to go. And guess who gives Paul a heavenly vision? Jesus. And then at Corinth, when he's been kicked out of the synagogue, and it seems as if he's going to be rejected by this town, who is it in Acts 18:9 who encourages Paul to recognize that God, by way of predestination and election, has many people in this city? Who speaks that word of encouragement to Paul? Jesus. And then who, when we get to Acts 27:23, and Paul is on a ship in the middle of the Mediterranean, and the captain of the ship foolishly heads out into the middle of an oncoming storm. Who is it that appears to Paul in the night and reassures Paul that neither he nor any other sailor, their lives will be lost? Who does that? Jesus. But what I want you to see is that Jesus is an extension of the Father's love. And that Jesus comes to his children. And he comes to his children in their hour of need. And he gives them exactly what they need to complete their mission.